This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, Lisa White with IVF Manifesting a Miracle, here for a really special Soul Sister conversation with my friend Ashley. Ashley Morgan, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, this is so fun. I'm really grateful to have a connection with you. We met back in like 2020.
Yeah, in the middle of the pandemic.
And right before the pandemic. And you did a vision board class of mine, which I'm so grateful. I think that was one of our first connections. And you have gone through so much. Your journey to parenthood is quite a story. And I really want to highlight you because you've gone through the egg donor path and have such an extensive history, medical background of what you've gone through. And I'll let you share a bit about that. But being diagnosed, at 21 with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and all that you've gone through with fertility preservation, you and Daniel, I've gotten to meet your husband, and you're based in Texas, but I was so grateful to connect with you in Colorado. So just really honored to have you here to share your story. I know so many are, considering maybe egg donors, and I just welcome you here. So thank you.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about egg donation because when I first heard about it, it was so scary and unknown to me. And I put it out of my mind. I was just like, no, we're not going to need that. I don't want to do that. And so fast forward 7 years, and I did a little bit more research, found some accounts on Instagram that made me feel better. And we finally pulled the trigger, and now we have our baby, and it's just the best thing ever. And I wouldn't look back at all. And so I just want to, kind of shine a light on egg donation and show people it's not nearly as scary as it seemed so long ago when I was first looking at it. And I don't think it will take anyone 7 years to come to the decision like we did. We had other things going on, but yeah, it really made our dreams come true.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great story. I mean, you have a little girl, Millie Sage, and she's 3 months old now. But yes, you've gone through so much, and I kind of want to just open it up to wherever you'd like to begin. Would it be when you went through when you froze some eggs for fertility preservation, or?
Yeah, so yeah, we can definitely start there. It's just the natural place. So I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 21, like you said. That was in 2013. I started chemotherapy, which was the usual rounds that they give you. It's called ABVD. I can't remember what it stands for, but I reached partial remission, and I was expected to reach full remission by the time I was done with radiation. And so when I had originally been diagnosed, I was very, very sick. It had just progressed to a point where my doctors said we need to start chemotherapy immediately. The first kind of chemo that I had wasn't it wasn't known for causing infertility, so that wasn't really a concern at the time. But like I said, I was very sick. I had lost about 50 pounds, and I was coughing constantly, and I couldn't, form a sentence without coughing. And so they suggested I start chemo right away, and so I did. And let's see, sorry, I'm jumping around. So when I finished that chemo, I went in for radiation, and they did a scan just to make sure that my mask was fitting everything correctly. And they said, we think your cancer may have come back. We're going to send you to MD Anderson in Houston. So I went to MD Anderson and found out that yes, my cancer had come back before I had even done radiation. And so they said that I would need a stem cell transplant. And stem cell transplants are the process of harvesting your stem cells from your bone marrow, and then putting you under intense chemotherapy, and then giving you back your stem cells. Or that's at least the kind of stem cell transplant I had. Some people need bone marrow from other people. I was fortunate that my cancer was not in my bone marrow, so I didn't have to use someone else's bone marrow. So, but they told me that the kind of chemo that I was going to have for my stem cell transplant would almost definitely cause infertility, and that if I were wanting to have children of my own, that I would need to try to do fertility preservation. And
Mm,
so when we went in to have that conversation with the fertility specialist, she told me that my fertility was already not great. Like my AMH was extremely low, and she there weren't very many follicles. But she said we can give it a try. And we
mhm,
think that the reason that I already had such or low fertility was because I had gotten so sick. I had lost so much weight. My
mhm,
cycle had stopped. So already not off to a great start, but she was like, "We'll give it a try," and so we did. And I think I only had like 3 or 4 follicles, and she said normally she wouldn't have even done an egg retrieval at that point, but time was not on our side, and she wanted to just give me a chance, and so um, she also suggested that we freeze embryos if my boyfriend at the time and I were in that place.
mhm.
Which we had only been dating 5 months when I got diagnosed with cancer.
Forgot
And
that. Wow.
and I told him, I was like, I know you didn't sign up for this. You're in college, and I was too. And I was like, I totally understand if you want to break things off. And he
Mm,
was like, well, I'm sticking around. And so he was with me through everything.
he's amazing.
Um, so by that point, we had been dating a little over a year, and so we were pretty serious about each other, and we'd already gone through cancer, and so we were like, okay, we do want to have children together and eventually get married one day. And so
Mhm.
we decided to fertilize the eggs, and we only got two, and only one of them fertilized into a blastocyst, and I think it was not even a 3 day. It might have been a 2 day. It was very low quality, but um,
Yeah.
the doctor was like, "We're gonna freeze something." She wanted to give us a little bit of hope to get
Yeah.
me through the cell transplant. Um, so yeah, when they called me and told me that we had that one embryo, it was like the best day of my life. It was just amazing, and
Yeah.
so, like I said, I had that hope to get through the stem cell transplant. And then right after that, I went in. I was admitted to the hospital for 4 weeks, and didn't couldn't leave the floor, couldn't go outside or anything like that. And um,
Wow.
so, yeah, that was a really really difficult part of my life. And I was
For
hooked
4 weeks, you said?
4 weeks, yeah, and basically in one room. I was encouraged to walk around the floor to try to keep my mobility up, but there was
Mhm.
a point where I was so tired and in so much pain that I didn't get out of bed for probably 2 weeks, I think. And
Mhm.
um
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I was very depleted. And what they do is they essentially take your immune system down to ground zero. So my white blood cell count was zero, and needed multiple blood transfusions. And yeah, it was intense. And
So that was you're holding on for that one and
yes, exactly. Like
yeah.
before I got to the really sick point, I was like in my sketchbook, like drawing pictures of a little family and getting married and or stuff like that. And so
Wow.
that little embryo, it really carried me through the stem cell transplant.
Well, you and I
Uh,
shared through that same mantra, I think going through this, which was always expect something wonderful to happen.
exactly.
We had
Yeah.
talked about that and you had shared, just you were gonna let, and I know you so kindly responded to the quote I shared in my book about, the thinking of courage is the willingness to let the deepest longings of my soul grow larger than any fear that might arise. That was from
Yeah.
Arise Mountain Dreamer. And you responded to that and just holding on to the hope, but like not letting the fear hold you back. You're going to keep moving forward. And so was it 7 years later? In
Yeah. So finally got through treatment, and then went back to college, got my degree, and then Daniel and I got married, and we traveled, and we finally were like, we're ready to have our baby. And so we contacted our doctor, and it was the same doctor in we said we're ready to transfer that embryo. And so it took us a little while to get ready. My body wasn't responding well to hormones, and it was hard to get my lining to where we needed it to be, and it just was cancellation after cancellation. We finally got to transfer in March of 2021, and I think that's when I was talking to you a lot. And you know what really made me, or made you stick out to me, was you had the one embryo that resulted in your amazing daughter. And so I was like, that can be us, and it just carried us through. And so that's why I took your vision board class and talked to you as much as I could. And I loved all of your posts. And so yeah, and I always, was hopeful that we would too be the ones where our one embryo made it, but unfortunately it was just a lower quality embryo. And we were really sad when unfortunately it did not take. But we were it's not like we weren't resentful or anything, because we were like, that embryo carried us through the hardest part of our lives. And in a way it'll always be with us. Daniel got it tattooed on his arm. And I'll send you a picture of that.
Please, that's so special. So then it was
Yeah.
that about that time where you're like considering, you're exploring maybe donor eggs.
Yeah, and I had already started exploring in preparation, not so much like I never wanted to, manifest having to use donor eggs or anything like that, but I was like, I need a backup plan, because if it fails, I need to know what the next step is, because otherwise I'm going to go into this dark hole of what's next type thing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so not long after we found out that it failed, like I think we found out the first week in April that it didn't work. And we bought donor eggs on June 3rd. So
Yeah, so like I know people are going to be like, okay, the whole process of going down this path, like how easily is it to find donor eggs and where did you go? Like, can you share a little bit about that journey?
yeah, so like I said, I had begun researching that before we transferred our own embryo. Um, and we went through a lot of avenues. So there was a time where we thought we were going to use a known donor, like someone that we know.
Yeah.
I wasn't super comfortable with that being someone that I was like friends with or anything. We had a
Yeah.
lot of offer, and we were just like, I don't know about that.
Mhm.
So then we were kind of thinking of going through an agency, and having someone that we find go through stems. And then we purchase, or well, then so we would pay for her IVF, and then the eggs we would essentially kind of like adopt the eggs.
Yeah.
And so we found someone, and we were kind of like on the fence about her, and it just wasn't feeling right. And so then we were like, maybe we need to go through a clinic and have them kind of do everything for us, because clearly this is very difficult. And it's emotionally draining to like interview someone and be like, I'm going to have your baby type thing. And so I mean, not their baby, but you know what I
I
mean.
know what you mean. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
he's
so
your
I
baby. He's your baby.
right, yeah, but, I'm gonna have a baby with your eggs, like, it's
Yeah.
just weird to have that
Yeah.
conversation. And
Yeah.
so,
Wow.
so we decided to start looking at banks, and we weren't finding anybody really, and the cost was so.
Online, you're like searching online through banks, kind of
Mhm.
pictures of the
Yeah,
women.
there's, like, Donor Egg Bank and My Egg Bank, and, most of them you can look at pictures and just general information about them, no names or any identifiers, but, just kinda
Mhm.
simple stuff. And
Okay.
hadn't really found any that we were just jazzed about. And so then we started considering going overseas, because the cost is so exorbitant here. And so Greece and Spain and I'm trying to remember, Croatia, they all have very lower cost donor programs,
Oh.
which the caveat is that you will never gain access to the donor's information. And
Oh.
that is something that we personally wanted to be we wanted to eventually be able to contact the donor, should our children want to know who their donor is. We personally feel that they have the right to that information,
Oh,
and we will help her find the donor if she wants to. I
that's
know that I will always be her mom, and she will know that too. But she has a right to know where her DNA came from, and her health history, and her family history, and things like that.
that's so amazing, Ashley. So
Yeah, thanks. So that's important to us, and so we wanted to keep that in mind. Um, so finally, I was like, we're not going to be able to travel overseas anytime soon. Like our lives were just busy with work and stuff like that. And so I was like, I'm just going to see if there's any donor egg banks in Texas. Like, let me just
yeah,
see.
yeah.
And I saw that Houston Fertility Institute had their own in-house donor program,
Mm,
and so I was actually going down to Houston for a scan for because I have scans about every 6 months, and so I went there and I messaged Houston Fertility Institute and I was like, "Do y'all happen to have an appointment just for us to come in for a consultation?" And they're like, "Yeah, actually we do, and it's at we have something at 3 p.m. Can you come
yeah,
then?" And I was
yeah,
like, "Perfect."
yeah.
So, and that was literally the day before my scan. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I went for my scan, everything was great. And then Daniel and I went to the appointment with Houston Fertility Institute, and
Yeah.
we talked to what would become our doctor, because it felt so right. Like,
Mm,
she answered all of our questions. She was very helpful. She even said she was willing to try IVF with me despite me having an AMH of 0.015. She was like, I will do IVF with you if you want, if that's what you need to come to terms with everything. And
mhm.
for some reason, when she said that, it was like I didn't need to do IVF on my own eggs anymore, because I was like, you know what? I'm ready to move on to donor eggs. Like, I'm ready for success. I don't want to get brokenhearted anymore. And so,
Mm.
um, yeah, she gave us the information to their donor pool, and that night Daniel and I went home and started looking at donors, and we found one that she was similar to me in height and build, and similar, like, family history, where she was from and all that. And then we just both happened to have a degree in marketing, and I was like, that's kind of cool, like, obviously that's not going to get passed down, like what degree. But it kind of like it made her stick out to us. And so we called the clinic the next day, and they said, "We have 14 of her eggs frozen. Would you like to buy the frozen eggs, or do you want to do a fresh cycle?"
Mhm.
And for Daniel and I, frozen eggs seemed like a safer bet to us. With a cycle, you never know what you're gonna get, even if they're a good responder. So we felt like frozen eggs were the better option for us, and so we bought donor eggs, and
Can you
a
explain
couple.
that a little bit? Like, I think you said there are cohorts or something to that effect of like you buy
Yeah, yeah,
a
for
cohort
sure.
of like 8 to
So usually, yeah,
2.
cohorts come in usually a group of 6 to 8, and so um, with 6 eggs, you can expect to get 2 to 3 embryos, and so if you're wanting to have more than one child, then you most likely want to get 2 cohorts if you can. Now, obviously, it's more expensive, and there's also situations where some people have multiple children from one cohort, but we really just wanted to guarantee that we would have more than one child. And so we were very fortunate that we were able to get 2 cohorts, which was,
Yeah.
in this case, 14 eggs. Um, so,
You wanted them to
yeah,
be the same person from is.
yeah, exactly. Like, we wanted our children to have the same genetic
Yeah.
parents if
Okay.
possible.
Mhm.
And some people that doesn't always work out. Some people are only able to
Mhm.
buy one cohort, so their next donor, so they end up going with another donor later on.
Right.
But for us, we bought the 14 eggs and we fertilized them, and we got, I believe it was 10 embryos, and then by day 5 we got down to 7 embryos, and then we sent them off for genetic testing, and 5 of them were genetically normal. So
So
yeah,
exciting. Oh
I
my,
know.
wow. And you've been really transparent on your Instagram, and I appreciate that. You've answered a lot of people's questions. I've learned a lot from you. And one of the questions was, does the donor know who buys her eggs?
Yeah.
And can you
Oh,
share a
okay.
little bit about anonymous versus, what versus,
Right. So most donors are anonymous, and that's for whatever reason they choose. Maybe they don't want their own children to know that they did that. There's so many reasons. I can't speak for another person.
right?
In our case, the donor is anonymous until she turns 18,
Okay.
and she does not know anything about Daniel or I. She knows that there are families out there. Obviously, she donated her eggs with the
Mhm.
intention of people creating families with her eggs.
Yeah.
And she gets notified when there's a live birth, but she doesn't know anything about us, where we live, where we are, or anything like that. And it's kind of the same about her. We can assume she's probably in the Houston area since she
Mm,
donated her eggs in Houston, but we don't know anything about where she lives or her
mhm.
family. I think we know that she does have children of her own, which are Millie's half siblings. And
Mhm.
so um, that's why when she's 18, we probably will reach out to her so she can eventually maybe get to know those siblings.
That's
And
cool.
um, something interesting about donor eggs to mention is
Yeah.
that they encourage you to sign up for the donor registry, and that's so they can eventually find their siblings if they'd like, or also so they don't date their siblings.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Don't think about that really, right?
Yeah. It's
Like,
something that I never thought about until, we started this process, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense."
oh my God. And she's notified if there is a live birth from her
Mhm.
eggs. Is that right?
Yes. Mhm.
She's notified
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Wow. So I know you want to grow your family, and right now you're embracing just, a 3 month, she's 3 months old, right?
Yes, 3 months.
Like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh. And just the joy of your life, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah, she's,
ah,
incredible. It's amazing.
before we came on the call, I heard you heard some pumping. So I'm like, oh yeah, you're in the throes of motherhood and
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Anytime she's not, like, in my hands, I'm, like, pumping when I can.
oh my God. Well, tell me the best parts that what are you loving right now? Just, I mean, I know probably everything, but
Yeah. Well, she's starting to get like, really develop a personality. She is
oh,
laughing all the time. She's, like, chatting with us, basically. Like, she'll just sit there and make noises at us, and so we make them back, and then she responds, and it's just amazing. And,
that's
yeah, like, yesterday I had this moment. It was like, with donor eggs, I don't have doubts that I'm her mom or anything like that. But every now and then it'll be like I'll remember that Daniel is genetically related to her and I'm not, and so if I'm not careful, I can let things get to my head. And I think that's just the nature of it. It's not a horrible thing or anything like that. Like I don't want to scare anybody away from it, but it, it's not like you'll never ever think about it.
right.
But yesterday she was in her stroller and she was looking up, so she couldn't see me because I was sitting down. And she started like whimpering a little bit, and she was sad, like she woke up and couldn't see me. And so like I got up and I was like, "Hey, Millie," and I was talking to her, and then she started smiling and cooing, and it's like she just needed to see her mom, and that was just the best feeling ever that I was able to, comfort her and make her happy right in that moment. And it
Well,
was like, yeah, it doesn't matter that she's made from a donor egg. Like that's my baby.
yeah, we know that genetics don't make a family, and
No.
you've heard of epigenetics, right? Are you
Yes.
familiar a little bit with epigenetics? I mean, your blood, your heart, she felt everything that you carried
Yeah.
her, and they're such a part of you. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll get a
Absolutely.
talk on epigenetics at some point, but
Yeah.
um, I have a few friends that have gone through egg donors, and so
Really.
Yeah. And it's a special way of family building, and you're her mom
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Mhm. The road
Um,
gone. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no,
I was just going to share, like what you've gone through. Can you share just, I mean, what helped you get through some of those hard times? Like, were you in support groups? Were you reading things? Were you watching things? Did you have a lot of friends going through fertility struggles? Like, can you share a little bit about like, the supports around you? What helped you?
yeah. So, when it came to infertility, I started following accounts on Instagram, and yours was one of them.
Mhm.
And then when it became apparent that we were going to have to use donor eggs,
Mhm.
one account that I found on Instagram was Expecting Anything.
Mm.
It's Victoria
Yeah.
Nino maybe. She
Mhm.
her Instagram page, it changed things for us. Like, oh my gosh, it just made it seem
Mm.
so possible. Like before, everything seemed out of reach, and how would we ever manage this type thing? And when we followed her, I sent her profile to Daniel. I was like, you got to follow her,
Yeah.
and her post just helped us so much. And another one is Danny, I think it's Repsh, REPSH, I think. I'm not sure what her account is, but that's her name. And she's another donor egg mom. And so it's just, yeah, those accounts helped me out so much. And then I joined a Facebook group called Egg Donation Angels, I believe it is.
Mm.
Recipients only, because there's also groups for egg donors. And so um
Mm.
I'll be sure to give you the right name for that so anyone can join if they want. um
I'll
and
add
from that,
I'll add them to the
yeah,
note.
yes, yeah. So from that group, we formed a mini group that met over Zoom,
Mm.
and we did that, or we still do that. It's about 8 to 10 of us, and some people, fade in, some people fade out, people's lives get busy and stuff like that. But the one that started it was a lady in her 50s that was having a baby from donor eggs. And um, so she started the little mini group, and we'd meet usually every 2 to 3 weeks, all throughout the pandemic. It was so cool because she lived in New York, but we had people on the call from Canada, Texas, I think one from India,
Mm.
just all over the world. And somehow we all found time to talk to each other, and that little mini community, it carried me through, because we had such a unique situation and such a unique path to parenthood that even like IVF, you can find a million pages on Instagram about IVF. But
Mm.
now we're in an even smaller pool of people that did IVF with donor eggs, and so it was so wonderful to talk to people that understood what it was like, because I don't think I've met anyone in person that has used donor eggs.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
speaking of the power of community, I mean, it's essential as you're going through this ride. It's so
for
hard,
sure.
so emotional, and you've gone through multiple layers, right? With
Yeah.
your cancer history. And did you have coverage, may I ask, like insurance coverage for either your fertility preservation or even IVF?
No. Unfortunately, no. I live in Texas, and even just in the United States, there's hardly any. So no, I didn't have any. I had a GoFundMe, and I got a lot of help on that. And
That's awesome.
I got a grant through the SAM Fund, which is specifically for cancer survivors.
Mm.
I applied for a couple fertility grants, and I never won any, but we were also able to take out a home equity loan, which helped us pay for IVF.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
really, oh my goodness. Um, do you have words of advice that you would share for others who are navigating this path? Maybe they're walking this line, to
Yeah.
go this
I
route,
think,
or,
yeah, I think just keep an open mind. Like, Don't get set on one path to parenthood, and just, yeah, like, be ready for any sort of changes. That's something that I've seen on your account a lot, is riding the waves of infertility, and just, yeah, being ready for anything. Have no idea what's going to happen, but you just have to trust that you will make it to your destination, and it might be a really bumpy road, or it might be kind of a smooth road. You never know. Like for us, things were really really bumpy until we transferred Millie, and then we got pregnant on the first transfer with donor eggs, and had a very simple, pretty uh non crazy. I mean, right there at the end, I had preeclampsia, but it ended up being fine. But
Okay.
yeah, like my pregnancy was normal. All of my numbers with my betas doubled perfectly, and so what I mean by that is just, we had the craziest journey to get to where we are now, but things finally smoothed out, and it was all worth it.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so happy to see where you're at. From meeting you a few years ago and just seeing you as this
I
blissful, glowing mom.
know. Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh. And do you find like through what you've gone through, are you using your voice more? I mean, you've been so open to like being there for others, answering questions regarding egg donor, that path. And has it given you any kind of like new passion or like wanting to be more vocal in this area, or not so much?
I do definitely want to be more vocal. I'm just not sure where my place in that is yet. I think right now I'm kind of in a listening mode. And the reason I say that is I've stumbled across some donor conceived people pages on Instagram, and not to scare anyone, but there are a lot of angry donor conceived people, and that's because they weren't told about their journey or about their conception until later on in life. And so I'm really wanting to be completely upfront with our daughter and our future children about their conception, like as early as possible, to avoid that. But
Mm,
I'm nervous to speak out because a lot of these donor conceived people are taking out their anger on parents that use donor eggs. And so I'm in a listening mode where I'm trying to figure out the best way to raise my daughter, and be
wow.
completely honest in front with her, and I never want her to be angry. I don't think she will. I think because
Yeah.
of our approach, she's gonna be
Yeah.
cool. But
Oh,
yeah, that's why I haven't, like, gone full out on Instagram. I'm honest with people and I tell people, but I haven't advocated a ton yet.
yeah. No, I so admire just you're listening, you're observing, you're raising your daughter in the best way that you know how and want to, and just
Yeah,
you and Daniel are such amazing parents. Just
thank you.
really proud to walk this journey with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for just reading my book and all the kind words and
Oh yeah, it was
oh,
amazing, and I suggest it to all of my friends that I've met along the way that are going through IVF.
thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. So I will connect your handle, but would you like to share here where people can find?
Yeah, sure. It's just Ashbo underscore 27, ASHBO underscore 27. And
Awesome.
anyone can follow me and I'll answer any questions.
Oh my gosh. Well, Millie's the sweetest. Tell me, does her name have a special meaning? Does it have like, is there a,
No, not really. Her name is Amelia, and I've just always loved that name. It was just the prettiest name to me. And then when we got pregnant, we would start calling her things, and then we started calling her Millie, and it just stuck. And we never planned for that, like I bought all these name signs and onesies with her name on it, and now we call her Millie. I mean, Amelia is still her name, and I like that when she's older, she has the option to be Amelia if she wants to, like, be Millie,
it's
but
saying those little nicknames, you're going to call her a
yeah,
nickname probably for a long time and
yeah,
say too. That's such a beautiful middle name. Oh my gosh.
I know, thank you, I love it.
Oh, and how's Daniel as a dad? Just the
He's
best.
amazing, yeah, he's he was made for this.
Oh, well, he's so
So
kind and
I know,
educated.
I got Millie and I matching outfits, and he was like, "I want a matching outfit." so cute.
Send me that picture.
I will, for sure.
All right. Well, I just adore you and thank you for having this really heartfelt conversation, opening up about your story and your journey. You're going to help so many people.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It means a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes. And for those on your path, continue to reach out. I'm here for you at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com. And yeah, thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everybody.